Attention.
It's time to register for Lucian Live, April 19th through 22nd, 2026 in Denver, Colorado, advancing infinite possibilities. And it's higher education without limits. Don't just keep up with change, lead it. Higher ed leaders from around the world are coming together at Lucian Live 2026. Across 4 unforgettable days, you'll discover new ways to meet students where they are and make the most of your technology through inspiring sessions and hands-on demos. Together, we're leveraging AI to create deeper human connections, support every student's journey, and open doors to lifelong learning. See you in Denver. Register now at elive.elucian.com. Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. This is Dr. Joe Salustio back with you on another episode of the podcast as we now marching hard, charging hard into year 7. This feels like a pivotal year for higher education. And, as we help, I think that we're redefining the value to the public. And one of the ways that we're doing that is not only to ensure that students graduate, because that hasn't ever been in question, but what do those postgraduate outcomes look like? And I sort of like 3 words that came together in late 2026, postgraduate outcomes. Maybe they were said before, but became very important in 2026, 2025, and now in 2026. Are students working? Are they getting that ROI? And are we, most importantly, communicating it out to the public? That's what we do here at the EdUp Experience podcast. And we've got somebody here. She's a willing participant. I already could tell you she's had lots of coffee or she just wakes up ready to go. Ladies and gentlemen, let's bring in right now. She's Dr. Madeline Pumariega. She's president of Miami-Dade College. Madeline, how are you?
I'm doing great, Joe. Thank you so much for having me on. And I'm super excited to be with you and talking about everything higher education, career ready, and as you're saying, post graduate opportunities that we're hearing from our industry partners.
So is it coffee or just natural energy, or a little bit of both?
Natural energy, but I do have 1 cup of coffee every morning.
All right, that's right. The first thing in the morning. And we all need one of those to get going. So we always like to level set for our audience. Assume, I know it's a hard assumption considering the institution in which you lead, but assume someone has not heard of Miami-Dade College before. Give us an idea of physical location, who you serve, and how you serve them.
So we are located in Miami, in Florida. We serve 125,000 students.
Come
mostly,
on now. Oh.
Yep, mostly first in their families to go to college. We have 8 campuses. We're part of the Florida college system that serves nearly 1 million Floridians a year, getting ready for career and college pathways. And I'd like to say we're democracy's college because we really are the gateway to the American dream, with more than 2.5 million alumni that have come through the doors of Miami-Dade College, and that includes me.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's one heck of a scope you got there. And 125,000 students. I could tell you, I think, and time flies, but maybe 2 or maybe less than that, 2 or 3 years ago, I remember hearing 90,000 is the number. Miami-Dade College, 90,000. I think it was not too long ago. You've exploded even more, it seems like, over the last couple of years. So I'm assuming you aren't one of those colleges that say we're experiencing enrollment decline at this point.
No, we are not. But we really, took COVID as an opportunity to reinvent ourselves. In 2021, when I came in, we needed to make a couple of pivots to make sure that we didn't end up being one of those colleges that was seeing declining enrollment. That, and for me, it's not an enrollment game. I think about the need out there of people needing to upskill, of every industry leader that I meet with that needs talent. So how do I make sure that I attract individuals that have talent and need that upskilling, might need that associates or college credit certificate to help a company grow and stay right here in Miami?
A democracy's college. I like that. That's a good. I like that. A good tagline. What does that mean? What does that mean to you? What should that mean to us when you say it?
So for me, democracy's college, it means hope and opportunity. When you have hope, you believe tomorrow is a better day, is a better future, is a stronger future. And we're in the business of creating those opportunities for students to be able to achieve that American dream, whatever it is for that person, whether it's becoming a nurse and working as a nurse and caring for people for their whole life, or becoming a teacher or a computer scientist. Doesn't matter. It's this idea that talent is universal, opportunity is not. And we're in the business of democratizing that education space so that you can wake up one day and say, I can go do that. I can go live out that dream. And there's an institution that I don't need an SAT score. I just need hard work, grit, and putting in some sweat equity, and they're going to help me get there.
Epic. You know, one of the things that I talk about a lot on the show, and I think it's relevant, continues to be important, is this the idea, I believe, that so much in retention or even in recruitment is about confidence building. It's about, I don't know, you talked about building a hope, but then you get that hope, and maybe you have to convince somebody that they're just able to do it. Like, I have this hope, but could I actually do it? And so much of the answer is yes, tactically, but it's no, psychologically. It's like, oh, no, it's a big school, Miami-Dade. I mean, you know, could I see myself there? You know, maybe I'm an immigrant family and first to go to college. Like, how does this work? What's this FAFSA thing? And all of a sudden, it's like, I don't know, maybe it's not for me. Maybe the time's not right for me now. How much of what you do is convincing the community that it's possible?
100% of it. Like, I think that what I say to our team all of the time is that we have to remove every point of friction for a student. Now, that doesn't mean making it easy, but it means that when a student interacts with us, wherever that might be, that they get the sense of belonging. Because if you don't believe, and all of a sudden the person's like, well, do you have this? And do you have that? And you're like, no, forget it. You see, this is not for me. Let me just go back to what I was doing. Why did I even try this? Right. And so, you know, I'm always challenging our team. And I think with digital transformation, we're able to do that. The future of education is personalized. Nobody wants to stand at the deli line with a number and have their number called when they're thinking about how they're going to experience education. Not anyone, right? We are so accustomed to everything is personalized for us. If you're scrolling through your social media, it's picked up your voice. It knows you're looking for a vacation, or you know that and those ads are coming in. So if you think about everywhere we go, someone knows us. The feeling that someone knows you, whether you're at the gym in Orange Theory and it's giving you those things. For me, as a leader, that's what I've tried to make sure we've done, so that students, whenever they interact with the college, whether it's on social media, whether it's with an admissions person or an advisor, they immediately believe they belong.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
You know, I love what you're saying because I am big on that. And I use Blockbuster and Netflix. I talk about when you think about the business model of Blockbuster and how it became irrelevant. And Netflix came along and said, you know, we've got speed, we've got convenience, we've got this personalized. I mean, it's kind of funny, I think, but if you're somebody that ever had someone else go on your Netflix feed, like your spouse or your partner, and click on a show and it messes up all the shows that you have like collated, and all of a sudden, and my wife likes a lot of Hallmark stuff, and so she'll click these shows, you know, and I'm like into action and sci-fi, and I'm like, what is this garbage on my feed? But I expect personalized feeds. I expect this experience that is just for me. And when friction rears its head, I expect that here's the thing, I expect, and so do we as consumers. By the way, we're all students too. We forget that sometimes when we go to work in our institutions, that we could be a student somewhere else. But I expect that the company goes, oh, I'm going to remove that. I'm going to make it easy for my consumer. But that's not always easy to do in higher ed, is it? It takes a certain mindset.
It really does. And I think you're absolutely right. Like students expect they have a Netflix account, right? And,
Yep.
and
people mess it up and they don't like it.
And they don't like it. And they go to Amazon and if you bought a flashlight, Amazon says, hey, people like you also bought these batteries, right? So when they walk into a system that is not modernized and antiquated, and they don't have that sense of, should I be here? So I think it is a mindset. For me, I always think about turf, trust, and tradition. Whenever you're trying to lead a frictionless environment, those are the three things that you almost have to mitigate for. Whose turf are you getting in, and how do they identify that that's their job? Like, what do you mean you're moving my cheese? This is what I do, and this is how I know how to do it. So if you don't create that opportunity to learn and evolve for that employee, you're going to run into turf issues, right? Because, hey, this is mine. The second is, this is the way we've always done it. So then I say, okay, if this is the way we've done it, is it policy or is it practice? Look, if it's a federal policy, have we made the right interpretation? If it's a state policy, the same. But
also, show it to me. Show me the policy. Where is it written?
Right. And who made that interpretation? And when was that interpretation made? Because what you might have interpreted 10 years ago has evolved and changed.
Yikes.
And then I think the last part that's really important in that mindset is, how are you developing trust? And it's that trust with a student, and it's also a trust with someone on the team to be able to say, let's create the conditions where everyone can be successful. And that for leadership requires, and for leaders requires that sense of, I trust that when I pivot and make this change, it's going to work out. And I think that's a big part of leading with innovation at the forefront, is making sure that you're also in the business of people.
A concept of turf is very interesting. I've not heard anybody say it quite so street smart, right? But that's really what it is. I mean, it's like if somebody's coming and telling me that this needs to change, and now I need to know if my job's on the line, if I accept this change, am I self-eliminating, or now I won't have control, and if I don't have control, am I less valuable? And it's all, to your point though, that's one way, but the other way is like, I'm in charge here. Like, this is the little bit of power I have to wield at Miami-Dade College. And if you take away that power, I feel less than. That's an important thing, that this idea and concept of change management. And you look at your scale. I mean, 8 campuses. It's not like you can just go and pluck somebody who's outside your office and go, hey, let's talk about turf. You've got to go, 10, 20, 50 miles away, find that president, find that employee, talk through it. And the channels, that's complicated. And so give us how do you pull that off at scale?
So like, for example, we wanted to create advisors for students that were with you from the beginning to the end. Okay, we're not going to hire 125,000 advisors.
Yeah,
so
you want concierge level.
Correct. Right. So you know what? It started out with a fireside chat with our advisors. So I also think that you cannot today, in today's day and age, and leading multiple generations, you can't let the hierarchy. Think about it this way. You have people who've grown at the institution and have grown in their life with hierarchy. So that means that, you got in the car and you didn't get to choose where you went on vacation. You just showed up to the vacation and it was Motel 8 and you slept on the floor and you never even said anything.
Ooh, gross.
Right? But
Yep.
That was it. That was your hierarchy. So when your boss comes in and says, this is what you're doing, you're like, okay, this is how you've been accustomed to that hierarchy. You take a generation now that's been raised in a network. They sit at the kitchen table. You guys study. Where are we going to go on vacation? Everyone has an equal vote that mom and dad and sibling 1 and sibling 2 might have. And so now they've been raised in a network, and they're coming into a hierarchy of an organization, because when you've been around for 65 years, you tend to be very hierarchy. And so I think the way that you can deconstruct a little bit of that, at least that I use, is I go have fireside chat with employees, with group of employees. And that isn't that I'm taking away the power of the organizational leaders in that hierarchy, a campus president, a student dean. It's that then you humanize and you're listening, and then people feel like I'm empowered. So when we rolled out advisors for students, we listened to the advisors. We didn't tell them, hey, this is what I want to do. It came from, what if you were seeing a student all the way through? What were the tools, and what are the tools you need? Well, we need better technology. I think about, we started thinking, not every student is in red and needs an intervention. For the most part, students are in green. They're showing up to class. They got their registered for the next semester. They've got their academic plan. And we did that like through a series of fireside chats versus trying to do this edict that went down like playing telephone. The president said this, the president said this. By the time he gets like 10 levels down, it is nothing that I have said. I did not and so I think today, leaders leading in multi-generation organizations where you can have 4 generations working together, you have to find the sweet spot of how you reach everybody.
Tell them like it is.
That's an interesting concept, I have to say, because it's so true, the idea of growing up in a network. I mean, literally the other day, I can't remember what I was talking to my daughter about. She's 11. And I was like, no, this is the way that it is. It's got to be because I said so. And she's like, Alexa, blah, 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 blah. And she says, Papa, you're wrong. It's this way. And I went, okay, wait a second. I was like, I lost my authority for a minute. I'm like, I got to gain this back. This is not cool that I can't say because I said so. Right? I mean,
right. So when she comes to work, and she's going to come to work with a level of self-efficacy that we might have not had. Yeah. And she arrives and she's got a supervisor who's like, no, you can't do that. No, we don't do it like this here, kid. Nope, just go sit back in your cubicle. She's gone. And then what happens to us in higher ed? Yeah. Then what happens to us? So we've got to be the thought leaders, not just in the teaching and learning process, but we also have to be the thought leaders in how do you lead? And how can you build a space for 3 or 4 generations to work together on the same mission, same purpose, have a level of respect for each other, but advance their impact. Use their collective intelligence. Like, don't dismiss anyone's intel. And I see that all the time. Like, take a little piece from here and a little piece from here, a little piece from here. Hey, you got something to learn from that guy that's been doing this for 25 years. Don't think you know it. But if you use everybody's little bit of intel, now you've created collective intelligence. If we can harness that, we're going to advance our impact faster and more effective.
Let's go.
You're the first female president, I believe, at MDC, right, in its history. And that kind of comes with its own, turf and its own a trust factor that you need to build, especially as you serve so many students, so many communities at scale, and have to be accessible at the same time because you serve, as you said, many families, first gen, immigrant families, a lot of people from a lower economic background, where the trust factor and the accessibility factor of a leader is much more visible now than it ever has been in our lifetime. It used to be, I can't even tell you, I remember having a college president. Like, I knew there must be one when I was in college. I knew there must have been one. But the thought that somebody was doing something to run the institution never even crossed my mind. I probably was still sleeping instead of going to class. Like, I was irresponsible. I just didn't even think about it. And today that's changing. There's visible leadership. That's part of the trust because you've got this cell phone taking pictures of you or videos of you wherever you go. And it's like, Either you're here and you're being this good leader, or maybe there's a picture of you, it's in an event where you didn't show up and somebody goes, where's the president? Like, there's so many things that you have to navigate. How do you balance presence where you need to be with that you can't be in all places at once while gaining the trust of your employees and students? Seems like a complicated question when I spit it out.
You know, there's a lot we can bang up on social media, without a doubt. But I do think that that is a tool to stay connected. For people like, like you, when I came to Miami-Dade College, I didn't know who the dean of students was. I didn't know a campus president. I didn't even know who the college president was. Why would I need to know that?
Yep.
Today, students know who I am, and they have no problem DMing me and dropping a DM on something. Or,
I bet they don't. I bet they
no,
just hit
zero. Remember the network, right? Like the network is, hey, like I can, I suppose I can, X at Elon Musk. I surely can drop a DM on my college president. Why not?
Surprise.
President. So I think that that's good. I welcome that. I welcome being that accessible because I want to hear from students and I also want to hear from our team. I never want to have multiple layers, but that's my leadership style too. That's my persona. It's not a made up one. I want to hear because probably because I like to fix things. Like if something's not working, just tell me, let's figure this out, whether you're a student or whether, you're somebody working in maintenance, it doesn't matter. So I think part of it is one, social media helps create that connection to community and helps create that community and form. I put out something Friday 5, which is more of an internal newsletter. It's an email that goes out and it's Friday 5. And it's the 5 magical things that happened at the college this week.
That's good.
And so it's got a great open rate among employees. And then people start sending things. Hey, this happened. Hey, did you know about this club? We did this. So that sense of pride that as big as we are, I see you. And I think those are important aspects of being able to lead with impact and build that trust as well. And then I think the last part is you're not going to do that if you're sitting in your office all day. You got to be out there walking. And I tell this to campus presidents, if you haven't put 10,000 steps in the day, you are not leading as effectively as you can. Walk your campus. You will find things. And by the way, you'll also find joy when you're walking around and you're seeing students and you're seeing colleagues grabbing a coffee together or walking the campus. So I think those are important elements too, to building that trust, that community, and people to believe in what we're doing in our mission, and then to believe in me. I
want to take that and circle all the way back around to the idea of friction or frictionless, because I think that's I love that you led with that, because I think that's such an important concept, not only for students and the evolving consumer, but to move our business model forward, which takes so many hits. Like, we can't move quickly, higher ed's dying, it doesn't have value. And it's like, a lot of that comes because we didn't remove friction when we had the chance, because we thought we held all the cards. And all of a sudden the student goes, you don't hold all the cards. I can go here instead, fully online or up the road to a competitor. The idea of friction, though, is that there's like the friction you can see, and then there's the friction that takes like a forensic scientist to find within the bureaucracy of where we live. How do you, when you think about friction and you think about moving the institution forward, is that an active exercise? Is it a reactive? Is it something that's active or reactive? How do you action it?
Ellucian Live 2026 is taking place April 19th through 22nd, 2026 in Denver, Colorado. Advancing infinite possibilities. Turn innovation into action with AI-powered solutions, student-first strategies, and a global network of fellow leaders at Ellucian Live 2026, higher education's premier global technology conference. It's going to be
amazing.
It's active. Like if you're reacting to everything, you're standing on your heels. I played basketball. And so if you're on your heels, you're not going to get the rebound. Rarely will get a rebound from your heels. And so I think that you have to be active. You have to be an active participant and anticipating those things that could create that friction. By the way, and when I think friction, I don't just think frictionless for students. I think about frictionless for employees.
Okay, I want to hear about that.
Right. If you're an employee and the institution has all these points of friction for you to be able to do your job, how do you think that's going to translate in the student experience?
Yeah.
So when you're identifying points of friction, it's not just external ones. It's really, you have to start with internal ones. Asking employees, identify the things that really are blockers for you to be able to serve a student in the best way you can. And then they'll identify some of them. And then you have to have the courage to go deconstruct some of those, because some of them are long held traditions, or they are somebody who, man, that is their sole job at the institution. And you're going to go mess with them. They're going to like, no, this is not, this is it. It's over, right? This whole fear factor comes in. So I think it is a mindset to just be actively thinking about how do we make and how do we create the conditions for every employee to be the best version of themselves. If they're doing that every day, then we're going to be doing what we need to be doing to serve our students.
I like that.
We talk so much about students. I'm glad you brought up the employee piece, because you must have many employees, and want to understand the scope of that, because I think that, one thing I noticed I do a lot of these interviews, and I noticed over 2025 going into 2026, more often than used to, the idea of taking care of our employees kept coming up again. Not that it hasn't before, but it was really happening during COVID. Like, we have to take care of the students, we have to take care of the employees, and then it sort of went away. We didn't say it went away, but it became less of a talking point and came back again. It's like, if we're going to reclaim the value of what we do to the general public, we have to make sure that we're taking care of our employees so that they feel that value and that passion. Can you talk about how many employees do you oversee within the system? Give us I don't know if you know down to the person, but a general number. And how important is that work? And how active is that work to make sure that we're taking care of the people who are taking care of the students?
Yep, it's a great question. I will tell you that one of our strategic priorities is a culture of care. So we have 5 strategic priorities that we established in 21 when I got here. 1 was reimagining the student experience. 2 was driving academic excellence and innovation. 3 was creating a culture of care. 4 was aligning our programs to the workforce. And then 5 was securing our future. That culture of care has been a hallmark, I think, in the consistent thread throughout and everywhere that we go. Now, creating a culture of care doesn't mean that we're not going to set expectations of excellence. And sometimes that backfires. Oh, this is not a culture of care. Yeah, you're still held to these excellent and standards, right? But how we think, and through the lens of, if we're creating a culture of care with ourselves, then that's going to happen with our students. And so you can't go out and have a strategic priority that says we're going to create a culture of care for our students and not have that value aligned to the institution, which is then how you build your budget. Your budget should reflect your values. If you value your employees, then how does the budget look like that? From whether it's professional development day, which we have coming up, or at conference day, everyone gets together. And it's not a browbeating day. It's a day of celebration. It's a day of celebrating achievements. It's also a day of looking towards the future, but it's a day of pouring in to employees at the college, which I will tell you, full-time employees is 2,800 that come together for conference day. And then when you take our part-timers, that's about another 3,000. adjunct faculty and our part-timers, which make up, an incredibly important part of our workforce as well.
Yeah, and so just to stay on this point for just a minute, you've got the President's Leadership Academy pouring back into your employees and iLab. And I thought maybe if you want to take a couple minutes to talk about each and how you give back to the MDC community, because I think it's really important for institutions to understand cool ways that you could do that.
Right. So 2022, we launched the President Leadership Academy, PLA, and it takes 55 leaders at the institution. And they go through a 9-month program with me. And it's from reading a book, from insights on our data and looking into our executive dashboards, to understanding the budget and how it comes from the federal aspect of it, the state aspect of it, tuition and fee aspect. So it's a year-long program, really also helping them become better leaders and giving them insights into why we make some of the decisions, or creating an environment that they can talk about it. And so it has been an amazing experience. We're about to kick off our 4th cohort, and I learned so much from them. But one of the things that I'm just reminded all the time is that this is a people business, and how important it is to invest in the people and invest in the talent and invest in the human capital. And so that's what we do with the President's Leadership Academy. And then we created, out of there, we spun off the iLab, which is each one of them work on teams on an innovation project, and they get to pitch their projects. So now they're solving for those frictions. They came up with a new employee orientation. They felt like our employee orientation was not one that was reflecting the values of the institution. It was boring. It was in a grungy old conference room. And so they came up with a project, and now employees orientation, when they're coming onto the college, is interactive. It's completely different. That's an example of an iLab project that 5 or 6 of them worked on together and then brought it to fruition.
Victory!
I love those examples, and I'm guessing when you take those 55 leaders, considering how large the scope is, many of those leaders will stay within MDC. They become a campus president. They become a VP of something, if they're not already. Some will go on to run an institution. Some will go on to run a 4-year institution. And then hopefully you get this phone call like, hey, Madeline, we'd really like to partner with MDC and give your students another place to transfer, right? So there's this cycle that can be created by investing in those leaders, because many of them, when you're dealing with an institution that is that large, are going to go somewhere. And so it's great to pour into them and then have them pour back into MDC. And that's how you grow, right?
That's exactly it. I think that we're in the business of growing people, whether it's growing our students or growing our employees, and making sure that they too have aspirations that we try to support in that process. And some spin off and they get that promotion internally. Others, leave the institution, and that's okay. Like, I think this idea of when someone leaves, oh my God, no, I think it's fantastic. I think that's good. But I, of course, want to create an environment where you love what you do, and this is where you want to be, and where every day you have a new white canvas that you can kind of reinvent yourself at the institution, as long as it's about, prioritizing student success and academic excellence, we can do it.
When you talk about growth a little bit, so I don't want to miss the opportunity to talk about what I think is most important, which is student outcomes. You have so many students that are alums in the area, contributing to the economy of Florida, the country, the world, probably. The economic impact of what you do in your region. Can you give us some idea of what that looks like, what that feels like in Miami and beyond?
So the college's economic impact to Miami-Dade County is $5 billion.
$5 billion. You got to say that, I think, with a pinky on your mouth, like Dr. Evil, even though it's positive.
Yep, $5 billion economic impact to our community, which is transformative. And that's why I think we're not just the workforce engine of this community, we're also the cultural engine, having the book fair, the film festival, the Freedom Tower, all these things that are also contributing to the economy. But most importantly, when a student invests $1, the return on investment for them is about $11 that they're going to see in lifetime earnings, making it again that time and time again, investing in yourself, lifelong learning and higher education is still a phenomenal investment.
Let's go.
Much is said about student debt. Of the 125,000 students here, less than 2% take on any debt.
That's
so I
insane.
think this idea that you have to go to a private 4-year university and get in debt, and that's what people have pictured higher education to be, we're saying, no, it is not. Higher education is a place where you go and you pick up not only just intellectual capital, some social capital, economic capital, and it's a way to contribute. And we're showing that by when you come here, this is what your investment is going to pay off. And the same on the state. When the state invests in Miami-Dade College, our return is, $4 or $5. So I think when you look at those numbers, you look at the impact, economic impact we have, not only in our community, but the kind of impact that we have in our students' lives.
Why do you think that exists? The sentence, higher education is just too expensive. And here I'm going to write this article about how expensive higher education is, and it costs $100,000 a year. And it's like we bucket higher education and we put in every institutional type within that higher education is too expensive. And it's like, why can't we pull that apart and say, no, it's really not too expensive when you look at all different types of institutions? How do we fight back against that narrative?
Tuition. I mean, how do we do it? This idea that we always think higher education is about spending more. I think as institutions, we too have to look at efficiencies.
Yeah.
We just can't say, hey, you know what, we're just going to keep raising tuition. I'm proud, that while I was chancellor for the Florida college system, we really passed a Student Affordability and Accessibility Act that the Florida legislature put in place. And that is that we haven't raised tuition in Florida in 14 years. And by the way, that's our colleges and our universities, including our flagship university, University of Florida, ranked, 5 in the nation. So I think we have a responsibility to also look at efficiencies so that we can deliver in a more cost affordable way. I think that our public community colleges across our country are a vehicle for students to be able to access higher education in a way that's affordable. And it's a way that they don't have to be strapped into debt for the next generation. And it's a two-way street. I think we've been fortunate in Florida, the investments that we receive from the governor and the Florida legislature to be able to keep cost contained for students. And then also the kind of scholarship programs. And we're fortunate to have generous donors that invest in our students by investing in scholarships.
The three T, I missed the middle one. You said going back, you said turf, something, and trust, and I can't remember what the middle one was.
Turf, tradition, and trust.
3 T's. It's like,
yep.
I love when my guests title their own episodes. I love that. I want to be sensitive to your time, and I know you're busy, and I talk a lot, so I can have our last 10 minutes go fast. But I want to give you an opportunity to sort of open mic for a minute. Take as many minutes as you'd like. Say anything else about MDC. Anything that's top of mind. Anything you think is important for the higher ed community to know. Any announcement that anything new, and really anything. Open mic for a couple of minutes. What's on your mind?
I think one of the things is artificial intelligence. People are talking about artificial intelligence. I'm proud of the work we've done at Miami-Dade College. We had about 500 of our faculty go through AI training in fall of 2021.
Wow.
And in 2022, we put out grant programs, and faculty could write a grant and get up to $10,000 for utilizing AI in the classroom to advance and enhance learning outcomes.
That's
and
how
so
you create frictionless experience.
Right. And we've now funded 36 projects. We've made AI for all, where we've looked at it from an interdisciplinary way and not just a vertical of a major. We created a certificate, an associate's, and a bachelor's program in artificial intelligence. We are working with Houston Community College in Maricopa and developing an AI framework for the nation and contributing to that collective impact. But I think what's important is that without a doubt, AI's democratized information, but we're in a knowledge economy and in a skills economy. And the work that's ahead of us is really the plus work, which is taking AI and the acceleration of those tools, and then making sure that they're coupled with the human skills, which so many of our employers are looking for: your ability to communicate, teamwork, work together, problem solve, and with the strong foundation skills, so that you can ask the right questions, you can stay curious. And so I think certainly top of mind today, and anywhere we go, is all about the talk of artificial intelligence. And I believe that particularly community colleges will play a really important role in leveraging those tools to close gaps and to be able to accelerate academic excellence. And then working closely with universities that will use that AI to advance research and innovation, which will keep our country competitive as well. So I think that AI is not here to replace higher education or the way in which we learn. I think it's here to enhance the way we do everything in our lives, whether it's play, work, travel, or learn. And I don't think that it's necessarily going to replace people as much. It's going to be for people who are not leveraging AI in what they do, then that's a blind spot for them. And leveling up is important. So it's the things that we're working on, and being thoughtful leaders around artificial intelligence and being able to make sure that we leverage it for good policy and great practice, and that we help employers that are also wrestling with how they introduce and bring AI into their workspace for their impact as well. So I'm proud of our team and what we're doing around that space. In addition to the other things that we're doing, in closing teacher shortages. We had a teacher shortage a couple of years ago, and we worked with the superintendent, and we were able to close that gap through apprenticeship and residency programs. And I think that, the way of the future is really, earning while you're learning. And those kinds of stackable credentials that include a suite of apprentice programs and college credit certificates is the way that we can modernize education. And we certainly can make it accessible and add to the talent, not just in our community, but really across our country. So it's kind of the things we're excited about at Miami-Dade College, and launched the Florida Center for Aviation and Aerospace. And we're excited. We've been a leader in the aviation space. And, now, just with everything happening with aerospace and drone technologies and advanced manufacturing, fiber, and building those pathways also.
I love all of that. I love it all. I think it's a shout out to the teachers, I must say, because if you don't remember how important a teacher was, just bring your kids back into the house during like COVID and remember how stressful that was, and you'll appreciate a good teacher. But nobody can bring up artificial intelligence without at least one follow-up question for me. I talk to a lot of four-year universities still, many who are really struggling with implementation of AI within the institution, getting faculty on board, figuring out what their policies are. Sometimes small institutions, maybe the bigger ones are moving a little bit faster and the smaller ones seem to be a little bit slower. But the concept that students need to be AI literate because that's what employers need them to be, hit community colleges faster because the students are getting a credential or a 2-year degree, and in a 4-year, it's a little delayed because they're in school longer. Is that the reality when you talk to employers, Madeline, that hey, we want somebody that can use AI, we want them to be able to take that output and go communicate it to everybody. So we need those human skills, but we want them to be able to do some stuff with AI.
Yeah, I think students need 3 distinctive skill sets. One are the academic skills. Those are the foundational skills. It's the skills that you're getting in Comp 1 and you're getting them in your math and you're getting them in political science courses. You're getting those academic foundational skills, which are really important. I think the second set of skills are those work-based learning skills, employability skills. Those are future-proof. Those you keep taking with you. And I think the third suite of skills that students now need to graduate with are digital skills. And those digital skills include artificial intelligence, but they also include cybersecurity. Yeah. Cyber crime is the 7th GDP in the world. So if you need employees that also understand that you go fishing on the bay and not with your email. And so those digital skills and the suite of digital skills, as we saw when Y2K and the year 2000 and oh my God. And so those were then the skills there were like imagine Word perfect, now it's Word and Lotus 1, 2, 3, versus Excel. I think it's the same. You've got to come out with those digital skills and AI is in there, how you use it ethically, how you use it with policy and privacy of the industry or employer you're working in. And for the academic part of it, how do you use it for research, but how do you then construct your own ideas in there with your own voice?
Yeah, so good. So good. Y2K is funny. Everybody thought the world was going to end too. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Funny quick story. I was younger then, and my friends and I were going to go to Canada for Y2K. And my dad's a doomsday kind of person. And he's like, you're going to get stuck in Canada in a Canadian jail. You're never going to be able to get back to the United States because they're going to shut down the border. And, you think about stuff like that. We have those same doomsday scenario thoughts in our mind with AI right now. Everybody thinks of Terminator, and it's like, well, let's just try to figure out how to open a program first and put our email in and remember the password. Like, that's where some people are. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, look, for some of your listeners that don't understand what Y2K was, it was the world's coming to an end because our system's going to change from a 1999 to
the clocks are going to turn off.
And
nothing's going to work.
The clocks are going to turn off. And, I think, you're right. This is what I tell our people. Again, back to multi-generations, I'll say to our folks when they're all together, how many of you sent your first email from Miami-Dade College? You were an employee here. And undoubtedly more than half the room. I go, and oh my God, could you imagine? We did it. Right? And you remember, we're going to policy and privacy and I can't send this. And listen, no more inter-office mail. You just sent an email. And they're like, oh my God, okay, how many of you sent your first text from like one of our college phones, right? And if you can get people to understand, we've done hard things and we're still here standing. Remember when we didn't think there would ever be a mailroom and then Amazon came and now look at that, you need more mail people than less mail people, right? So I think it's giving people the confidence that we've been there, we've gone through technology revolutions. I will say AI does it faster.
It's a faster lift.
Mm-hmm. It's a faster lift, but we've done it and we've been able to do it and navigate through it.
Madeline, what do you see? Last question before we close. What do you see for the future of higher education, our industry?
I see I'm hopeful. I'm super excited about it. I think that in a knowledge and a skills economy, if we continue in higher education to personalize those pathways for students to be able to get out of our own way of these structured paths, that you're going to have students that might want to tinker over here and over there and come over back over here. And so how do we personalize those pathways that might start out with a certificate, leads to an associate's, and then to a bachelor's? I think that the way that we work with industry in meaningful ways, it's going to be the number one priority for business leaders is their talent and human capital. We're sitting in a great place to be fantastic partners for those investments to happen in human capital. And so I think we just have to continue to innovate. We have to continue to do the things that we do well at a higher level. And then we've got to leverage all of our collective intelligence, everything with artificial intelligence to just enhance student outcomes, drive better student outcomes, use those tools to close the gap in gateway math, use those to be able to help a student, do that coding for that computer science project. It's going to build, I think, great capacity for us. And I'm hopeful and super optimistic of the things that we'll continue to do working together.
Love the optimism. So important in what we do to serve students and our employees to be optimistic about the future of higher ed. Well, you said a lot today. We appreciate the insights. Turf, tradition, and trust. That's my big takeaway. I love the idea of turf. It makes everything easier to see when you bring it down to that level to create change. We hope you had fun too today, Madeline. We hope you had a good time in the podcast.
Yeah, I had a blast. If you want to see turf, just go out to a playground and you'll see how you'll see kids.
Whose slide is it, right?
Exactly.
Well, there you have it, everybody. She's the one. She's the only. Dr. Madeline Pumariega. She's the president at Miami-Dade College. And you just EdUp'd.
Ellucian Live 2026 is taking place April 19th through 22nd, 2026 in Denver, Colorado. Advancing infinite possibilities. Turn innovation into action with AI-powered solutions, student-first strategies, and a global network of fellow leaders at Ellucian Live 2026, higher education's premier global technology conference. It's going to be
amazing.